She's amazing. She's actually a Millersville alumni. She has a degree in meteorology with a concentration in broadcasting, right?
Yes.
And a minor in emergency management. And she's currently a weekend meteorologist at WJAC out of Johnstown, Pennsylvania. So welcome. Really glad to have you here.
Thank you. All right. So I guess I will share my screen and we will get this going. Okay. Is it good?
Yes, I can see it.
It's been a while since I've done this Zoom presentation, but anyway, all right. So, as we just said, I'm Cait Westerholm. I'm a meteorologist at WJAC in Johnstown, and today I'm going to be talking about how emergency preparedness and emergency management really falls hand in hand with broadcast meteorology as a whole. So I'll start out with just a little bit about me. If you were in the freshman class the other day and heard this whole spiel, I'm sorry that you have to hear it again. But I graduated from Millersville not too long ago, just in the spring of this past year. So it's kind of crazy that I'm here doing something like this already when I just graduated not too long ago, major in meteorology, minor in emergency management, which I didn't pick up until about a year and a half before I graduated. It was kind of like a last minute decision, but it was something that I realized I was interested in. I knew it would ultimately benefit me in the end, and it definitely has. And then my concentration was in broadcasting. So getting to where I am, I didn't always want to go into broadcasting. I always thought it was a cool idea. It was a fun idea, but I still consider myself on the shy and quiet side. So I never really thought that I would have the confidence to, go on TV and everything. But I think it was the summer between my freshman and sophomore year at Millersville, I was able to job shadow at my local station, WNEP in Scranton. I'm from the Wilkes-Barre-Scranton area. So I job shadowed there. The meteorologist that I job shadowed under was like, we're going to throw you on TV during the 6 o'clock. And I was like panicking a little bit because I'd never done anything like that, but it ended up going fine. And that day was kind of the day that made me realize that this is something that I wanted to do. And that's kind of when I changed my course a little bit in terms of what I was doing in Millersville. I started taking broadcast classes. I started getting more involved with Millersville's Weather Watch, the campus weather service videos, and MUTV, everything related to broadcast at Millersville. I started getting involved with that, and then all of that experience led me into an internship at WBNG in Binghamton, New York for 2 summers. The first summer went well enough that apparently they liked me enough to have me back again. So I took the opportunity and learned a ton there just on regular meteorology things like forecasting and whatnot, and then also the whole broadcast aspect of it. I was able to get a lot of experience through that. And then after that, I was kind of in the right place at the right time. Obviously, the pandemic happened going into 2020. All my classes got put online. So I was at home doing my classes, and WBNG's weekend meteorologist at the time left to go to a different station, and they were having trouble hiring somebody based on, the pandemic and everything. And they were like, would you want to just fill in part-time until we find somebody that's able to take the full-time position because you're still in school and everything. And so obviously I jumped right on that. I said, of course. It was only supposed to last the summer because I expected to come back to Millersville in the fall, but that didn't happen. My classes got put online again. So I ended up staying there for most of 2020. About, I think, the beginning of May to New Year's Eve of 2020 was my last day there, until they found somebody to take the full-time position because I was still in school and they wanted me to focus on that and get that done before taking a full-time position, which obviously that made a ton of sense. And that's what I did until it was about January heading into February. I started just browsing around to see what kind of jobs were out there because I would be graduating in May. And I did stumble upon the position in Johnstown. And I knew I never really wanted to go super far away from home. And this was a good opportunity, but everybody said like, oh no, just like relax. You're still in school, take your time, enjoy your time to yourself before you have to get a job. So I was like, you know what? I won't apply. Like, I'll wait. Good idea. That's fine. But I still kept looking at that job opening. I still kept filling out the application, just not doing anything with it. And then one night I was just sitting on the couch, checking my email. And sure enough, I had an email from my current news director saying, hey, I just so happened to stumble upon your reel and everything online. Would you be interested in an interview? So I kind of took that as like a, it's meant to be kind of thing. Took the interview. Obviously it went well because now I'm here. So I started here in March of 2021 and, you know, I've been here ever since. So that's kind of the about me portion of this, but I do like to share it just because going into Millersville, I knew I wanted to be a meteorologist, but based on the experiences I had at Millersville, it was able to lead me into something that I thought maybe I wouldn't be able to do. And it ended up working out really well. So anyway, now we'll get into the whole how broadcast meteorology ties in with emergency management and how they kind of work hand in hand. So I'm going to split this presentation into kind of 3 parts. So before the event, which would be any kind of severe weather event, you know, severe thunderstorms to snowstorms and everything in between, during the event and then after the event. So before the event obviously includes the forecasting of it. So we know what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, and what we have to do to prepare for that. Collaboration within the meteorologists that I'm working with, as well as National Weather Service, Storm Prediction Center, everybody up and down the line. Getting that information out as many as 1 to 3 days before the event, depending on severity and confidence and things like that. And also just balance of getting that information out, because I do think there's a very fine line between, you know, talking about the severity of an event and also like hyping it up in a sense, which obviously is not something that you really want to do. So then during the event, immediacy, getting that information out as quickly as possible, but also doing it in an accurate manner and a very professional manner. So I think it's more important to, you know, maybe be the second one to get the information out, but you made sure that the things that you're saying are correct and you're getting the right information out in a professional way. And then after the event, this is more so just within myself or the people that I'm working with, a recap of, you know, what went well. Did the forecast go well? Was the coverage good? If not, what could have been better? And then also social media, which has played a very huge role in getting the information that kind of confirms that things went well or didn't, such as like damage pictures and confirmation of events that have happened from, you know, pictures or just messages that we receive. So we will start out with before the event. So forecasting and collaboration is what we'll start out with. So we'll start out with a few days before the event. My station has this thing called weather warn days. Other stations have things that are very similar, like impact days or alert days, like things like that. A lot of places do things of this nature. So what it is it's issued about 1 to 3 days before the event, depending on the severity and the confidence in the occurrence of that event. So for example, you know, with hurricanes, tropical storms, things like that, usually you have a pretty good warning time of a couple of days. So something like that is something that could be issued on the, you know, the farther end of it. So a couple of days out, but then there's other times where severe weather, it's like the day before or even the day of, it pops up and, you know, that's how it has to be. So those are issued about 1 to 3 days before the event, depending on what it is and what's going to happen. So this is starting out with just mentioning it on air, and an icon is placed on the 7-day forecast. This is just an old example that I was able to find. It's obviously from around Father's Day, but the icon on the Saturday, the little lightning bolt, is an example of a weather warn day for a severe thunderstorm type of day. And then there's icons for literally any other kind of severe weather event that you could imagine. That's just an example of a couple. So tropical systems, the sun would be heat, which we did use a couple of times over the summer when we were under excessive heat warnings. Rain and flooding, lightning bolt is the severe thunderstorm. Snow would be any kind of winter storm, and then rain also goes into flooding. So weather warn days are based on obviously our own forecasts and our own thoughts on events, but also in collaboration with National Weather Service and the Storm Prediction Center. So kind of a telltale sign that a day is going to be a weather warn day would be based on like the Storm Prediction Center's outlook. So if we're under, slight moderate risk or above, then it's probably going to be a weather warn day, because that's a pretty good chance of a good portion of our area seeing some sort of severe weather that day. But then on the other hand, it could be a marginal day with a 2% tornado risk. Then, when there's a risk of tornadoes in the area, that would also warrant a weather warn day. So a lot of it is just based on our thoughts, as well as collaboration with National Weather Service and Storm Prediction Center thoughts, because you can't just issue these every time there's going to be thunderstorms, because then at that point they kind of lose their meaning, and if they're used too often, people are just kind of going to brush it over. But the way that we have kind of promoted it is that if you see that icon on the 7-day forecast, to pay attention to that day and keep an eye on it over the next couple of days, because there is a good chance that we could see some severe weather that day. It might not necessarily be in your backyard, but there's a good chance that something severe or some kind of severe weather event will happen on that day somewhere within our viewing area. So that's kind of for the summertime weather, Storm Prediction Center outlooks and everything. For winter, which I haven't been here for a winter yet, but I think the criteria for issuing like a weather warn day for a winter storm or something is a widespread 6+ inches of snow, or I think it's a 1/4 inch of ice. So once again, those are the icons for it, issued for literally any type of severe weather event. And it's promoted that if you see it, it's something to keep an eye on and something to look into over the next couple of days, and to, just keep an eye on within the forecast as the day gets closer. So this is kind of step one in getting people aware of the fact that, okay, on Saturday, there's the potential for severe weather. So if, somebody does have plans on that day, keep an eye on it and see what happens on that day that icon is placed on. And after the days leading up to that, we're kind of able to nail down the specifics on what's going to happen, when it's going to happen, and also where. So moving on to getting that information out and also the balance between it. So the day before, if any watches, outlooks are issued, communicate that. Something that I like to do is I do like to include the Storm Prediction Center outlooks in my broadcast whenever I'm working in their severe weather. I do like to include that and just kind of say like, okay, today's it's a slight, moderate, whatever. Some viewers might not know exactly what slight means. Obviously, meteorologists do. So I just kind of put it in terms of like, oh, it's a level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 risk out of things. And I like to put that in. So if any watches, outlooks are issued, communicate that and provide the details of what you're certain and what you're uncertain of. So timing, maybe you're certain that, okay, this is going to move through between 2 and 5 o'clock. You know that for sure, but you're not exactly sure how much rain is going to fall or where exactly the severe weather is going to set up. I think that's also very important, because that leads to the viewers trusting you, that, you're honest in what you know and what you don't know, and you're not always going to know everything. And I think that's very important to talk about. So these are just a couple of pictures of graphics that I would use. I know they both say today, but the day before and the day of, I guess. But these are just examples that I was able to find without digging through tons of video and everything. So the potential threats graphic, I think, is one of my favorite ones, because that's and one of the most useful to use, because then, it's right out there. They look at the screen, they could see, okay, so damaging wind is going to be the main threat. Better bring things inside, better tie things down, or if they had plans, obviously could rethink those or bring them inside if that is the main threat. So almost always the day before with severe weather, you can at least say that the main threat is going to be flooding tomorrow, or it's going to be the tornado threat. You could almost always nail that down. the day before, unless it's kind of like a last minute event, which does happen sometimes. And there's really nothing you could do about the timing of that besides, working faster to get that information out and not having as much time to prepare. But, those are just examples of things that go on in the broadcast and also on social media during Facebook Lives or just generic social media posts. It's important to get the information out and really any way you could, because not everybody's going to see the news. Not everybody's going to go on Facebook. So you kind of have to get it out there in every way possible so you could reach as many people as possible. So now we will move on to during the event. So immediacy and accuracy. So as I said earlier, in severe weather situations, it is very important to get the information out as quickly as possible, but it's even more important to be accurate in what you're saying. So we'll start out with severe thunderstorm warnings and what we do when severe thunderstorm warnings are issued within our area. So automated social media posts, the example of that would be the bottom picture, the one with all the little orange polygons. That's an example of that gets pushed out anytime a new warning is issued to Facebook, Twitter, any kind of social media, just so it's one less thing that we have to worry about posting, especially when it's like during a newscast that something is happening, or it's just a busy weather day and there's a lot to keep up with. And sometimes you are the only meteorologist working, and that's happened to me quite a few times. And social media is sometimes kind of the last thing on your mind. So it's good that to have a system set up where, you don't have to worry, oh, is everything going out to social? It's just kind of pushing it out for you. And yeah, it is a generic post that just says, oh, severe thunderstorm warning has been issued for whatever county it has to be. And then for more information, go to the website where we'd have the full warning listed and also a link to like on-air coverage if we were doing that. And then the top post is one of the more detailed ones. So if I wasn't the only one working that day and somebody else was with me, one of us could do Facebook Lives and on-air cut-ins and whatever, and then the other one could work on more detailed social media posts. So obviously the top one is the better one because it's showing what time the warning is until, where it's highlighted, and then also timing on where it's going. So, by 2:28, it'll be in Johnstown, so people know what to look for and when that storm is going to specifically impact them. So that's the better option. But sometimes when you're the only person there, it's a lot to handle. So that's why we have the automated social media post set up. And then also something that we do, which I personally haven't seen other stations do until I got here, is that when we have severe thunderstorm warnings, we do quick cut-ins on the air, just a quick 30-second to 1 minute, depending on what's going on and where it is, cut in during commercials on the air. So just a generic, severe thunderstorm warning has been issued for whatever county. The main threats are this, and this. And then we'd also use the graphic at the top there with like the timing out of things and discuss the main threats of what's going to happen. And the same thing goes for flash flood warnings. We also do the cut-ins for flash flood warnings, severe thunderstorm warnings, and those continue about every half an hour-ish, depending on how long the warning is issued. So if it keeps getting extended, you'll have to do multiple cut-ins for it. But if it's only active for, say, 20 minutes, then you can't be on 24/7 for a severe thunderstorm warning. But that changes when you come to a tornado warning. So on severe thunderstorm days, Facebook Live is usually the best place that we could get information out, because you can sit on there for as long as you want. And there's really no restrictions. There's nothing, unless the news is going on, then, that's different. Then we just get more time within the newscast. But if it's happening during a time where there's no news going on, you can sit on Facebook all you want, answer questions that people may have specifically. And I think that's a good way to kind of gain that trust with the people that are watching you and to get the information out. So now we'll move on to tornado warnings, which are a totally different story as compared to severe thunderstorm warnings. So we still do the automated social media post. Example is the top picture there with the two little red polygons. So that just gets posted to Facebook. You know, there's tornado warning issued for Elk County. Tune in on air for more coverage. So during a tornado warning, we do have to go wall to wall for coverage, which means that, you know, as quickly as possible after the warning is issued, we would hop on the air and we would stay there until the warning is either allowed to expire or it moves out of our area, our viewing area, and then, you know, the next station over would take over the warning. So once again, first picture is an example of the automated social media post, which, you know, obviously isn't the best source of information, but if you're by yourself, you can't be posting on Facebook and also on the air and also, you know, doing 10 things at the same time, which that also does happen too, because it is incredibly hard to do social media and also do on air things during a tornado warning when you need to be on the air for the entirety of it, and could be anywhere between 5 minutes to hours. I mean, just a couple of months ago, I think it might be from the same screenshots that I have on here. There was one day where it was just warning after warning after warning after warning, and I was on the air by myself for about 3 hours, and I was only here for a couple of months, so I was panicking a little bit, but you know, it was all right. We made it through it. It was stressful, but it's hard to kind of cover everything at once. So the main thing for tornado warnings is obviously the on-air coverage, which is also pushed to a Facebook Live. Like they put the stream both on like TV, Facebook Live, and the app. So social media posts kind of just go away when that happens, because during a tornado warning, you know, a social media post saying, oh, there's a tornado warning for whatever county isn't going to do much, but me or anybody else talking is going to do a lot more, because you're kind of acting like a voice of reason for the people that are watching, and you're kind of like a safe spot because you're, you know, informing them on what's happening, what's going to happen, and also what to do if they are kind of in the danger zone of that warning, so to say. So during tornado coverage, it's very, very, very important to know the area that you're talking about. So to be able to mention those small town names, which, I mean, in my viewing area, there's a lot of them. There's a lot of smaller, less populated areas, and it's important to know some of those smaller towns. It's important to, you know, mention road names, mention those smaller towns, mention if schools are in the area, you know, anything like that, because, you know, a tornado warning, it comes on fast if you're not aware of what's happening, and sometimes there isn't a ton of time to be able to prepare for it. So it's important that you are accurate and you have the facts straight and the information straight. So then therefore the people watching you know exactly what to do with the information. They'll know how to protect themselves. So that's why we also share the tornado safety tips. That's just an example of one of the graphics that we have that say what to do during the warning if you're in the polygon, and you know what to do until it's over. So also during tornado warnings, like I said, when you're by yourself, sometimes it can get very stressful and a little panicky inside your head. But I think the main point in that is that even if you're kind of nervous and panicking within yourself, that doesn't reflect in the way that you're talking. So it's very important to be calm, because if you sound panicked, the people that are watching you are probably going to panic too. Because if the one person that they trust with this information sounds like pretty nervous and that things are scary, they're probably going to get pretty nervous too. So sometimes that's hard to do, especially when it's a very serious situation. Like if something was going through a very highly populated area at like a prime time, like where people are going to work or going to school, it's kind of hard to, you know, keep your calm and your cool, but it's very, very important to do that, because people are listening to you and they're going to trust you, and it's important for them to trust you and for you to be calm and be, once again, like that voice of reason for people who are being affected by this, because it is a scary thing. And I think it makes it a lot easier when you're listening to somebody that you can trust and somebody that also sounds like they know what they're talking about and is able to stay calm during a situation like this. So that's once again where you kind of have to be the voice of reason in something like that, because a tornado warning, they do happen fast and they could cause a lot of damage within a short amount of time. So it's important to get that message across in kind of a calm and yet immediate, yet accurate manner. So it's kind of a lot, but there is a lot that goes into it. So immediacy and accuracy, I'm going to continue on this because something did happen kind of recently here that ties in with a lot of this. So number one, yes, there is a difference. Once again, it is important to get that information out, but it's much more important to be accurate in the information that you're getting out. So this was a couple of months ago. At this point, I think it was during one of the tropical systems that moved up through Pennsylvania. I don't remember the name off the top of my head because there were two this summer. Don't remember what one this was, but it was a recent flooding situation. And if you're aware of Johnstown in any sort of sense, the thing you probably know it for is bad flooding and some catastrophic floods well in the past. But, you know, we do flood easily here and people are aware of the flooding history that we do have here. So once you mention flooding, people do start to panic because they realize what can happen here and what has happened here and how devastating it was for the area. So during this flooding situation, we had inches and inches of rain, and there were mixed reports out that a dam broke during a flash flood event. So obviously people were going to get very nervous. The dam never broke, actually, and the other reports of miscommunication and misinformation did cause a lot of panic within the community. So it's very important to be careful in what you say in severe weather events. So, you know, once people hear this, like, oh, we better get that out. But is that actually what's happening? In reality, I think it was just overflowing or something. It didn't actually break. I mean, if it broke, it would have been another disaster, a whole other disaster on its own. But, you know, like I said, Johnstown is an area that has faced many, many devastating floods in the past. So the mentions of things like that really scare people, and that's not the goal. So it's very important to know the area that you're serving, but it's also very important to not tread lightly around things like that, but to just be accurate and not try to panic people. Because I mean, it's the same thing if, you know, you live in a hurricane prone zone and somebody's like hyping up a hurricane event, people are going to get nervous. It's the same thing. You kind of have to know the area that you're serving and be careful in the information that you are giving out, because sometimes all it takes is an extra couple of minutes to look into it to see if that's really what's happening. And I think it's more important to do that, to be accurate, than to be the first one out with the information. And in reality, it might not have been the right thing to say or the right thing to do. So also professionalism, I did kind of touch on this with the tornado warning thing. It's very important to sound calm and comforting, even if you're not necessarily calm yourself, which is sometimes hard to do. Once again, you're acting as a voice of reason and a comfort with many people. So you're the person that people are looking to for that guidance during any kind of severe weather event, severe weather emergency, anything along those lines, which is also, it's important to use easy to understand language. So for example, in a tornado warning, you know, meteorologists know obviously all the science, all the more scientific and fancy terms behind everything, but a lot of the people that are watching you don't. So it's very important to just kind of talk normally, get rid of the super scientific terms and just kind of break it down, because people aren't really concerned about the science behind things that are happening. They just want to know what they have to do. Is it coming to their house? Is whatever. What do they have to do during that situation? And then once again, there is a fine line between hyping something up and then causing panic, or just telling the information as it is. So I think there is a very fine line between that. And I think the difference in that comes between like the immediacy and accuracy kind of thing, and also the calmness in your voice. So if like, I know you all have probably seen like the Facebook pages that post like weeks in advance of like a crippling snowstorm is going to happen in December or whatever. And obviously to meteorologists, to emergency managers, that's ridiculous. But it's ridiculous to say so far out. But the public, they see crippling snowstorm and there's the hype and there it is. And that's all it takes. So you kind of have to watch your wording when it comes to things like that. So now we will move on to after the event. So this is kind of a more so between me, the people that I work with, whatever, the other meteorologists, and anybody else that helped with the coverage, reporters, anybody else that was involved in it. So what went well, what didn't go well within the forecast itself? I mean, did you convey the right risks? How was the coverage itself? That's kind of things to settle within the team that you were working with, and then learn from there, because everything is kind of a learning opportunity, and the way that you learn is by forecasts being right or wrong. So now move on to social media posts, which obviously play a very, very large part in confirming severe weather and emergency events. These are just a couple examples of videos that were sent in to either our news Facebook page or email, wherever they came from. Viewers sent them in, and these were on days that we had tornado warnings. And I was able to pass those on to the National Weather Service. And then from there, they knew where to check for damage, where to assess the next days. And that kind of helps them with the whole thing of, you know, how did their forecast go? And then it's also a learning opportunity there. So receiving information from viewers is a major part in helping the forecasting, helping really the coverage itself, because then you know what went right, what didn't go right. And also it helps you learn if maybe some of these, you know, didn't occur within a tornado warning. Now you know what to look for next time and things like that. So, you know, it could be as simple as somebody sending in, oh, I got an inch of rain in my house. Great. Then we know if our rainfall total forecast was good or bad, or as extreme as sending in videos of tornadoes. So we know, you know, where the damage was and if those warnings did or did not verify. So overall, in conclusion, broadcast meteorologists do play a very large role in communication during severe weather events, which also ties in with emergency management, because you're communicating the risks, you're there for the people during the event, and then you're also there afterward to confirm things and to also help with post-event kind of things. So preparation begins up to days before the event and continues until after the event, you know, until it happens next time, from severe thunderstorm warnings to snowstorms to, you know, everything in between. So if anybody has any questions now, we could do that, or if not, I don't really know what time this was supposed to go until, but if not, you could always just email me. My email's there, or if you're not comfortable with that, you could always just find me on Twitter or Facebook or anything, and we could chat there. So yeah, that's all I've got. If anybody has questions, we could chat, or you could hop out of here. I don't know what time this was supposed to go until, but yeah, thanks for having me. And yeah.